So where I find the most pleasure is when you're looking at something, you're like, okay, I know this is not supposed to work. I know that a lot of people not even admit that there's a solution. But even yet, I see it working. I just have to find a way to get other people to see it now. That's what the art is. Art isn't getting people to look at stuff. It's not really about self-expression for me. Right now, it's archiving. Right now, it's getting people to look at knowledge that's already been created. I think that's where art history is at this point, and that's where my work begins. Onyedika Chuke. So I was born in Nigeria, came to the States in the 90s, and my parents were on the rocks around that time, moved to Michigan, stayed with a family in Michigan. From there, moved to Jersey, stayed with a family in Jersey, then I moved to Flushing, Queens, stayed with a family, went to a Korean church. That kind of like became like one of those moments in my life where you just kind of learn to appreciate culture in large. Like you're aware that you're part of a transient family, but then you have a parent that just kind of buffers you just enough against the elements. So you're able to kind of like be a kid and enjoy like all the things that other kids may necessarily have. And then from there we moved to Far Rockaway to housing projects. From there it was foster homes, from then on out. Probably by like 17, art was more or less where I kind of wanted to be, just given everything that was happening. And also being from a certain type of family, like we all kind of knew what we were up against. I had like 3 sisters, and I think that changed a lot. They could be very tough and very caring at the same time. Having that and still having that means a lot to what I was able to accomplish. I don't care that much about the current condition. If things are not working, I care about getting out of it. So I care about building bigger. And I just kind of always built large. My sculptures have a certain scale to it. The concepts has a certain scale to it. But that's kind of, again, like the blessing of having had people that buffered you just enough when you're being displaced. My work does not deal with race. It does not deal with anything that people would term as being the obvious. To build an archive or to build something that's based on research and histories, and to think that you can do it and to have that level of ambition needs a certain level of like sensitivity. I feel like most of my life and everything I've gone through have trained me to be sensitive at a certain level. But what I found that also happens sometimes, that people run away from the issue once it becomes a gender they don't quite understand or race they don't quite understand. They're like, oh, that's them. Like we have to kind of distance ourselves. But yet everyone is involved, right? So I'm trying to find how can we find something that's so universal, right? And sometimes it has to not even appear to be universal, right? It's just personal. But how can we find that thing that'll get an audience to just look or feel